Well, hey guys. My name is William Davis, and I am the Director of Education for Wilson Daniels. And in just a moment, we're going to go live with our Tuesday IG. For everyone out there, we've had a couple of days of snow here in Denver, but we are going to go to a region that doesn't get a lot of snow, and that would be Domaine de Beaurenard in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So behind me, you'll actually see Chateauneuf with the four different types of soils. We are waiting for Victor to join, but this gives you a really good idea of what the soil types are in Chateauneuf, and we're going to have Victor delve in a little bit more to that, and also give you a little bit of a background on the vagaries of what's happening with Mother Nature. We were going to have him out in the vineyards today, but unfortunately, and probably for the better of us, we're going to get a chance to see him tasting this 6-month-old macerated wine that he just pulled out of the pipette yesterday. But let's see if we can find Victor. All right, Victor. Hey guys. So let's see if I can find Victor over here, and we will get him on the line. Hey, so many people that are coming in. So let's see if we can connect to you from the other side of the world. Victor?
Hello,
Hey,
hello,
what's going on, my
hello,
man?
hello.
You you gotta love the lag time for 5 or 6 thousand miles. How you doing?
Good, I'm great.
Glad to
How are
hear it,
you?
man.
How are you, William?
Oh, you know me, I can't complain. I've got a little bit of wine in front of me here, of course, and
Good.
a little Chateauneuf 2017. But tell everyone why you're not in the vineyards today. Why
Well,
you're actually going to be in the winery.
we were actually working the vineyard today, but to do a live Instagram in the vineyard was a bit challenging today because of the wind called Mistral, which is a pretty strong wind that blows north to south. And today in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, it's a windy day. So I guess you would not be able to hear me well. So I decided an hour ago that it would probably be better to move inside the winery and be quiet.
Well, hopefully the grapes are loud today.
Yeah, well, yes.
So, give us a little bit of insight into the history of Chateauneuf, as a wine region, and what makes, the domain, especially with Beaurenard,
Yeah.
such a special part of the history of Chateauneuf.
Yeah, well, Châteauneuf-du-Pape is a worldwide known appellation, and his name in French means New Castle of the Pope. So the history of Châteauneuf-du-Pape is actually linked with the Pope's history that were in Avignon, near Châteauneuf, in the 14th century. And they heard about the wine we were already doing in Châteauneuf, and they built a castle on top of the hill of the village of Châteauneuf, and they were the first ambassador of Châteauneuf-du-Pape wines across the world, and developed a lot the production of the wines at this time.
So, with that in mind, where is Chateauneuf? Is it north, south of Avignon?
So
How far away is it from?
it's about 15 kilometers, so let's say 10 miles north of Avignon. So it's very close. It's a 20-minute drive. Now, actually, with no one on the road, it's more like 10 minutes with the situation we're living. But anyway, it's pretty close from Avignon, and close enough for the pups at this time to come with the horse and stay over for the summer in Châteauneuf.
No, nothing wrong with that. I mean, I don't think anyone's complaining about the lack of a rush hour
Yeah,
anywhere around the world, but I'm sure a few of us would like to get back to that. Um, so, with the estate transitioning into biodynamic practices,
yeah.
tell us, just a little bit about, how the family decided to go in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that my father brought to the winery. So I'm with my brother Antonin, the eighth generation. So biodynamic farming would be something that the seventh generation brought to the family. Um, that being said, it's also something that my grandmother Regine was really into already in the 80s. My family was interested, and with my father, my grandmother was going to talks about biodynamic, organic farming. At this time, they thought it was only for very, very small producers that only got a few acres to grow, and maybe we were too large, while we are not a big winery either, but too large to do those practices. And in 2011, we were certified for the first year. That means that we started the practices in 2007 for the
Okay.
biodynamic. Yeah.
Now, how many hectare do you have under vine with the property?
So we have a total of 66 hectares,
Okay.
and about half is in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. We also have vineyards in Rasteau and Côtes-du-Rhône, and everything we do is 100% organic, certified, and biodynamic certified with Demeter, which for us is important to show the commitment we do.
Now, you'd mentioned, with a lot of smaller producers deciding to go biodynamic and the challenges with, having more land. What did that mean for the family? How did that commitment change, and what was the philosophy behind it?
Yes, well, that's a good question because that's the tricky move that my father was brave enough to do. I think it's even more for biodynamic than organic, but biodynamic it's something you have to have in your heart here, right here, and it's a philosophy. It's a big commitment. If you do it by yourself in your own property, if it's small, it's good, but the challenge is to have your employee and everybody with you on board, sharing the philosophy. And this is something that we have today. We are very lucky. I think we have a very good team that doesn't mind to work on a Sunday if it's necessary, doesn't mind to do the extra steps that are required to work the way we do. So, yeah.
I guess Mother Nature doesn't have a day off, right?
No day off on Sunday, no day off during coronavirus, no. And yeah, life
So,
keeps
how are
going.
things, shaping up for the beginning of the 2020 vintage for you guys there?
Okay, so 2020 so far looks good, but already with some challenges. So in the winter, we had a good amount of water, so the
Okay.
soil has good resource. But over the last few months, February and March, very, very little, if not water at all, no rain. And April is starting the same way. So it's quite dry on the upper part of the soil and quite compacted as well. So we are hoping for good rains. And to tell you, in April, we are already giving water to the young vines. So the baby vines that we planted earlier this year, we are giving them some water. So we have no irrigation system at all. It's all, by hand and pretty basic, but it's needed because we have no rain. Also, we got some frost 3 weeks ago now,
Oh,
and we got some damage, unfortunately, in Côtes-du-Rhône, as well as in some of the vineyards we have in Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
I'm sorry to hear that. Was it widespread or very focused?
No, it's quite limited and it's very uneven. from vineyards to vineyards. In Châteauneuf-du-Pape, the good thing is that we have a lot of small vineyards around the appellation on different soils and different parts of the appellation. So we've been preserved by this spread of soils we have.
Well, that's actually a good segue into the next question, because when you have, all of these different vineyards, and, you're one of a few producers in Châteauneuf that work with all 13 grape varieties.
Yes.
Why, what is the philosophy for that, as opposed to, say, a single vineyard producer in the region?
Okay, this is also something very important that my family keeps and develop. Actually, behind me here, can you see, William?
I can.
That's okay, so cool. Here are all the varieties of Châteauneuf-du-Pape that we keep in a magical recipe. So we are famous to grow 13 grape varieties. That being said, today only a few growers continue to grow every single of those varieties. My father, 20 years ago, already felt that it was very important to preserve some of the rare grape varieties, such as the Counoise, the Terre Noire, the Muscardin, the Picardin, the Picpoul for the whites. And he decided to plant his own nursery. So today we have our own nursery that every single year we can source from to replant. And every vineyard we have, we try to co-plant, meaning that we mix different grape varieties in the same vineyard. And this is not something new. This is not something my father invented. It's something our ancestors were doing back in the days.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, no different than, a fill blend, but, taking Massal, one step further.
Yes.
And I have to say, I didn't know that you had your own nursery, which is, some great information to take out and share with everybody here in the United States.
Yeah, it's a rare, and if I may give some more details on that, it's a rare thing, and it's something we are growing. We have also in project to plant a second nursery in a few years in another vineyard, and the field blend is also for us a way to have more biodiversity in the same land. We don't have just Grenache or just Syrah, but different varieties that are just as different individuals, bringing more biodiversity. And today everybody understands how important it is.
Well, I'd imagine that probably helps as well in a situation like Frost, where you've got different, budding times for the varieties. So it might help you mitigate some of those challenges.
It does, and while the season is growing from debuting to harvest, the differences between each varieties is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And by the time we are picking the grapes, we observe that it's much more even. It's not exactly the same ripening, but it's close enough that we're able to pick the grape varieties together. And this is kind of a magic that the vines are giving us.
Well, that's nice. At least that shaves a couple of man hours off of the family's work.
Yeah.
So, the wines are certainly known for long aging, and having all 13 grape varieties. What does that mean for the ageability of these wines? How does Beaurenard, in respect to other producers, where does this ageability come from? Is it from the barrels? Is it from the vines? What's going on?
I think ageability in the wine world is one of the greatest mystery. Behind that, I think it's more than anything from the terroir itself. So the magic is not the winemaker or the varieties. The first very important key is the terroir. And this is why some places in the world have this incredible aging capacity, while some other wines, you can have the best winemaker, the best grape, it will not age through decades and decades. Behind me, you have the collection of bottles that are back from the late 19th century. And I think once the winemaker, the producer, the vine grower respect the terroir and allow the terroir to express itself in a good way without going too far in any direction. When you look for this balance, when you respect this terroir, you're able to catch the identity. And in Châteauneuf, we are lucky that it offers us this incredible capacity to age for years and years.
So, talking about those different soil types and, everything you have there, and the move to, aging in 12 hectoliter truncated.
Yes.
How does that affect the wines at the end of the day?
Yes. So in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, our main cuvée is what we call the Grand Assemblage. So a big blend. It's a blend of the different grape varieties, as you just mentioned. It's also a blend of different terroirs that are coming from different parts of the appellation. And the aging is always done with different varieties and terroirs already blended together. And only at the final step of blending, we put the wine as it is in your glass once you drink a bottle. Aging in food is very important for us. It's important to have the tannins more mellow, soft, the structure more gentle, and that takes time. And you need to take care of the baby in a good way. So we found that a 12 hectoliters food is, for example, a great example. And actually, I should go. I think you want.
I think that's a great idea. I really want to see what you've got going on downstairs.
Let me do just a stop here to show you the old bottles. There is not much light, but I guess you see where I am. And here are they. You still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, perfect. So, in fact, we have different sizes. We have large traditional food, 30 hectoliters, and they are doing an amazing job. We have classic barrels that everybody in the wine world know. And we have a smaller food. We developed them about 10 years ago, and they seem to be very good for our wines. Respect the tannins. They don't have any new oak flavors or any identity that we are not looking for. And they've been doing good results for us, respecting once again the terroir.
So who are making your food? Is it a multitude of coopers or?
We have different cooper. For the one that are behind me, the 12 hectoliters, it's a French Stockinger, Austrian cooper. First, they have a very strong reputation about the finesse of the tannins that it gives in the first years and the very gentle influence of the oak over the wine. Also, one very interesting part is that for many years they have been respecting the moon cycle when they cut the oak tree. And for a biodynamic producer as we are, looking every single day about the moon cycles and our biodynamic calendar, it was an interesting thing to look at, and we did, and results were there. So every year we bought a new one and a new one and a new one. So now we have a few of them.
Well, that's very cool. I mean, the whole concept of biodynamic from grape to glass. A lot of those steps. You think about the vineyard and treatments, and tinctures, and things of that nature. But there are always those holes, and a lot of that comes from the supply chain.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, before confinement, earlier in March, French Stockinger himself came to the winery.
Really?
So we could taste together a different food. We could taste his competitors as well on barrels or the large food or behind me. And we could discuss about new projects we have together down the road. So this is the level of partnership we want to have with suppliers, Cooper and other suppliers, because it's very important, and without them we cannot have this level of details and commitment we are looking for.
So, if anyone happened to have any questions, feel free to put those in the comment section. We'll try to address as many of those as we can with Victor on the line. But which of the vines are the oldest on the estate, and how do you separate those in terms of the wines that you have in the portfolio?
Yes. So as I told you just before, our main one is a Grand Assemblage, so a big blend. We also have a special cuvée in Châteauneuf called Beaurenard, which is the original name of the land centuries ago. Today, this wine is made with the oldest vines on the property. Vines are somewhere between 70 and 100 years old for the oldest. So we are talking about very old vines. It's not a single vineyard, it's different lieux-dits in Châteauneuf where those old vines are still around. And with those vineyards, we are able to make a separate blend, just because the level of concentration and the expression of the wine is truly different.
So do you find that certain grape varieties, working with all of them in the region, do you find certain grape varieties tend to, the vine age tends to be more consistent than others? I mean, does, for example,
yes.
You get a 25 or 30-year life as opposed to Grenache?
It's interesting. Grenache seems, it's the main variety in Châteauneuf, and it seems to be able to age extremely well, and is a very wise variety over the years. And other varieties, just like Cinsault or Mourvèdre, are also giving extraordinary results with finesse and structure for the Mourvèdre. Cinsault is so delicate and seems to be wise also to control himself with the yields. Other varieties like Syrah have been a little more challenging because many selection of Syrah were not strong enough maybe to last. But we've been working on that with our nursery, and we have some very old Syrah that also give a strong result. But for sure, it's a little more challenging grapes for now.
I see. Well, here's another question that just came up from Mark of all people in Illinois. Has global warming altered the cepage of any of the wines? You'd spoken about how you're seeing harvest being more consistent in terms of the timing between different grape varieties? Yes.
So indeed, global warming or climate change, call it how you want, it does impact strongly our daily life and our work and the vines, obviously. First, it would be the alcohol level, maybe. It's a challenge, especially in the southern Rhone when it's warm and dry. I already told you earlier about how dry it is for April right now, and how dry was the winter, March and February and March. More than that, it's the way we have to work year around, because frost is also a challenge, believe it or not, that we are facing with global warming, because if temperatures are warmer, as they were in the winter, the vines are starting earlier, and the risk of frost will remain until May. So with vines that start very early, we have higher risk of getting a spring frost. And this is another effect of the climate change. And the level of acidity, you were talking about the balance of the wine, the acid. It's a key part of our wines. It's something my family is really looking into for any wine. Preserving acid and this finesse, this freshness is very important. but it's more and more challenging with biodynamic, with the global warming. And I think the biodynamic farming is a key, maybe to help the vines to feel better throughout a tough summer, for example.
So a truly holistic approach to
Yes,
combating.
that's the word. That's the perfect description. And yes, some varieties react better than others. And some varieties like Counoise will not give a crazy level of sugar, so not a crazy level of alcohol, and maybe preserve a little more some acid. And using them as a blend more and more, as we are planting more every year, it's a part of the answer. But we don't want to get rid of Grenache. I mean, it's a fantastic variety, extremely well adapted to the region, the climate, the terroir. It's also the way we manage it throughout the year. As you said, holistic approach. There is not one answer. We can do a live for 24 hours and I will keep going, but maybe viewers will be gone by then.
Well, I think that, we're only here for a short period of time. The vineyards, hopefully will be here for decades and generations to come. With that in mind, I know that you've got some wine that you want to check out and try, right?
Yes, absolutely. Good. It's about time. I'm getting thirsty here, and
But it's happy hour there. I mean, it's a few hours early here, but it's happy hour where you are. So
I have something I really want to check from my experiment yesterday. And once we are done with the chat, I will say hello to my grandfather that lives in front of the winery. He's celebrating his 85th birthday today. So
well,
then I'll move to champagne
here,
maybe.
Happy birthday.
I will, I promise. So I grab my glass and I want to taste the experiment I did yesterday. So if I'm losing signal while I'm walking in the cellar, I will go backward. But here is the Cabrières Cocotte F9 is for Foudre 9, 12 hectoliters, and this is the secret code of my wine. The picture you were showing before I started was taken yesterday. I was devatting my experimental tank, and it was a Châteauneuf-du-Pape where I pushed the maceration for over 6 months. So hold on. Okay, here we are. Voila.
There we go. First virtual barrel tasting.
Exactly. It's indeed, because yesterday I did not taste. I tasted while it was still in the tank, but not in the food. So that's the first release worldwide. So you can see the color. It's quite light. It's Grenache with Mourvèdre. Mm-hmm. It's a field blend, as we were talking earlier on. So random mix of Grenache and Mourvèdre in the land. Lieu-dit is Cabrières. It's on a hill with east sun exposure, and that was harvested on October 5th. So that was about the end of harvest for us. I think that was the last day of harvest actually. It's a late ripening lieu-dit in the northern part of Châteauneuf, and those vines are about 40 years old, quite old. And for many years I wanted, because I tried in different estates, long maceration, longer skin contact. So I wanted to do my own experience with that. And here we are, over 6 months of maceration. As you can guess, I pushed very gentle the skin contact and the extraction during the fermentation. So in October, the only work I was doing was, keeping the cap, so the top of the tank wet, but very, very gentle on the extraction. My idea was to do the long maceration rather than a powerful and hard extraction during a short period of time. And my idea was to understand better the tannin structure, the way they work in the mouth, the texture it gives, the finish, the complexity of the aromatic as well. And yeah, here we are. So let me try.
I'm drinking the 2017 Chateauneuf, and we didn't get a chance to talk about the differences between the 17 and the 19 vintage. Between these two wines.
So this is in my glass 2019. So this is my experience, but other than that, 2019 is absolutely fantastic vintage, and the quality was exceptional. Weather was great, and for whites and for red, it was balanced, complex. I think we'll have a very strong Châteauneuf du Pape vintage, and this is coming after two very different vintages. 18 was challenging with the mildew and the growing season, but harvest went very well. And 17, it was the drought, one of the warmest and drier year we were facing, reducing the yields by half. So that was quite a bit of a challenge. And vines did not suffer so much. Why? Because early on in the spring, the yields were already reduced during flower. We had Coulon with Grenache, so it means shatter. So we lost a lot of grapes. And the vines, they got to face the warm temperatures and the drought, but they had little grapes to take care of, so they could handle that in a good way. At the end of the day, we don't have many bottles, so enjoy the one you get in the US, but quality was preserved.
It is, and I have to say, even with the drought, challenges with hydric stress, what have you, is that your wines, the family's wines at Beaurenard, always seem to be a lot fresher, not driven by the desiccation of fruit, which you see in the 2017. But I am super intrigued to see how that 6-month macerated 19 tastes.
Yeah. So I put some bottles on the side, of course. I can tell you I will not release the special cuvée because we are running many experiments every year. Myself, my father, my brother, and it's just I cannot release a new cuvée every day, or maybe later on. But I will save some bottle for you guys to taste, and I will do the experiment again next year. It depends if I feel it or not, but maybe I will push the maceration even more. From the beginning, my idea was to do Easter devatting. Why? Don't ask me. It's just a feeling. So I'm like, okay, Easter, but maybe next year I'll push to the next harvest and have a 1-year maceration, but step by step.
Well, so how's the structure of the wine? I mean, with 6 months, with this extended maceration, of course it's going to be young. There's going to be, angular, but there's going to be, maybe some extended tannin as well. But is the fruit holding up? Is there potential in the wine in the barrel?
I think it's quite surprising, and okay, I have to admit, I tasted it with my brother 10 minutes before the live started because I wanted to have his point of view on that. And of course, myself, I'm a bit nervous because I cannot judge really my own wine. But my brother said, no, it's tasting very good. It's balanced. The fruit is on. And believe it or not, the tannins are not stronger. And this is quite interesting and fascinating. You have, I think, a little more complexity, and the tannins on your mouth are different, but it's not aggressive. It's that's why I'm thinking about pushing more. I don't like big wines that have no finesse and tannins that are hurting your palate. I like finesse and fine wines, and it might seem a paradox, but for some reason, being gentle on the extraction and pushing it doesn't mean it will be strong tannins at the end. So,
well, I love the idea of the experiment, you know, in doing these extended macerations, because you might also get an idea of what extended macerations are going to do in light of future vintages and the variances in those vintages. You know, what's going to happen if 2020, you know, is another drought year, and you do this, and how much the wines are going to be different between the 19, a great vintage, and the 20s.
And interesting fact is that to run the experiment and compare to what we do usually, the food next to it is the same vineyard, harvested the same day, but with the classic maceration of Domaine de Beaurenard. So we are always doing a long maceration, but usually we are talking about weeks and not months. So side by side, I have the two wines that we can compare by blind tasting over the next few months and years, and see how things go.
Well, very cool. Well, I unfortunately am out of questions, but I could keep you on the line for a long time. Anybody got any questions out there in IG land? No? Well, Victor, is there any closing or final words that you'd like to send out to the team and to everyone here in the United States?
I will just send a message of love and joy, because this is at the end of the day why we are making wine. So it's my first time doing a live Instagram like that, and I was a bit nervous about this, you know, technology things, but it works very easily. I like it. And wine is to share with people. We are sharing something in a different way today, but it's important because everybody has to, you know, take care of himself and the others. And strange time we are living, but you know, there is always joy to share, and I think that's my message.
Well, thank you. We did have a last question, like a last question come in. So kind of start with the history of Domaine de Beaurenard and how the Coulons ended up in the property.
Okay, so I said we were the 8th generation. So my family has been around Châteauneuf-du-Pape for a very long time. We are harvesting in the mid 19th century already, and generation after generation we developed the vineyards, but mostly my grandparents, Paul and Régine, developed it, and we bought vineyards in Rasteau, in Côte-du-Rhône. It's a long family story, but that got a little more developed over the last 60 years. And this is why I owe a lot to my grandparents. And this is why it's important to come and say hi to my grandfather from a 3-meter distance in a few minutes, because he's very serious about confinement and social distancing, which is important. But yeah, without them, you know, nothing would be around. And that's also maybe important part, is that, you know, we are talking about weeks or months of confinement, but the timing with viticulture is very different. It's centuries, it's decades and generations. And the work I have in my glass wouldn't be possible without my uncle, my father, and my grandparents and my ancestor before. So that's, you know, the beauty of wine as well.
Well, it allows us to continue and to work through these challenging times as well. If only to raise a glass and to escape the challenges that life gives us at this time. So thanks again, Victor. Thanks again to everyone that had a chance to chime in. We do have follow, if you're not already, Wilson Daniels, and let your friends know. We've got a number of the IG Lives coming up over the next few weeks with our winery partners around the world. So thanks again, Victor. This has been awesome, and I cannot wait to make it out to Chateauneuf and have a glass in person.
Thank you, William, and thank you, Wilson Daniels. I'm very happy that I've done this presentation. And take care, please.
You too, my friend.
Cheers.
Cheers.